As women, we are so much more attracted to Jamie Fraser than to Sam Heughan, and to Arthur than to Charlie Hunnam for a reason. It's that roughness and play with life, that willingness to show up for what it asks of us, for it to mold us into who we knew we were always meant to become. That confidence, that openness to life is attractive. Just like we don't want to date boys, but want to be claimed by a man, let's be the woman who can receive and hold him when he arrives, rather than remain the girl who never could. The good girl pleases. She puts other needs in front of her own because she doesn't even know what she wants. Even if she did, she doesn't ask for it for fear of losing that connection because external validation means more to her than her inner source. She sources love externally. She's like a pond needing rain. Whereas the feminine, radiant woman that you've always known you can be has an inner source of love. She is a wellspring. She owns her truth, honors her desires, and magnetizes opportunities. She sets the standard by being authentically herself because she knows it's safe. She's no longer stuck in survival mode, no longer afraid of what could happen if nobody outside liked her. So if you're a good girl and want to become this feminine woman, this is for you. First, I'll tell you about the need for the shift and why it is so essential that we put ourselves through initiation. And then I'll tell you the 10 habits you can integrate into your routine so it can become your identity to be the woman you've always known that you can be. Welcome to Devoted to Extraordinary, where today is the first, last, only, and best day of our entire lives. Subscribe to also come on this journey with me to become that woman of virtue and vitality that you've always known you can be, and also subscribe to the newsletter below to get this whole video in a text format, which I share weekly. Now, here is the deep need to create initiation in our own lives. The modern crisis is the lack of rites of passage. The rite of passage is a ceremony or event in one's life that marks an important stage. It's a sacred initiation that marks the transition from boyhood to manhood, from girlhood to womanhood. In ancient societies, these transitions were intentional and witnessed and supported by elders. They involved trials and isolation and metaphors of death and rebirth and community reintegration. Rites of passage are not just a biological event such as the passing of time or a woman's first period, but rather it's a soulful transformation into becoming who you were always meant to be. In ancient Sparta, we see how boys underwent rigorous training and trials before becoming adult warriors. It was the same in medieval Europe with knighthood. Now, there are still some traditional rites that exist around the world. In Judaism, we have the bar and bat mitzvahs. In Christianity, we have confirmation. In Catholicism, in Latin America, we have the quinceañera. And then there are the indigenous initiations, the Sundance and the Vision Quest for Native Americans, as well as the African Maasai warrior and Zulu initiation, and the walkabout in Australian Aboriginal tradition. So those cultures that are closer to nature still have this sacred, cyclical, and intentional ritual that's integrated into their lives in spite of modern life. So putting to one side the fact that there are revival movements and mentorship programs, in Western society at large, we simply call this a coming of age, as if a higher number equals a refined heart and mind. But these only shift through certain experiences, which we no longer certainly have by 21 like we used to. Nowadays, these transitions are much more individualized and secular and sometimes even unconscious, so they lack that intentionality. Here's how they show up today. There's the responsibility of having your first job, the significance of losing your virginity, especially for women due to purity culture. There's the freedom of getting a driver's license, or how graduation ceremonies symbolize a shift into choice and agency in your life. There's the independence that comes with moving out of a family home. And at university, when you join a fraternity, it can mimic that energy of tribal initiation and community. There's the discipline in joining the military or a boot camp, although this is mainly still for men. And then true commitment is found in getting married because that is a lifelong choice. And there's the obvious initiatory nature of becoming a parent. For women, the initiation comes through the pain of birth, but for both parents come the higher risks in the protection of another life. So today, although those rituals and initiations are still in place, they lack a general sense of congruence due to the lack of community and driven direction. As a result, we seek artificial initiations through risky or reckless behavior, addictions, relationship drama, attachment over love, burnout from hustle culture, and mostly for men, gang culture, or toxic alpha narratives, seeking the thing that will give us the growth, lacking the container. So we drift into adulthood without a clear identity or sense of purpose. Without sacred structure, life becomes chaotic. The masculine psyche craves initiation while women crave direction. Both of us long to be seen, guided, and transformed. To emerge not just older, but wiser and more aligned. You can watch my video on confidence to see how alignment works. The truth is, many women don't feel like they've become a woman until their late 20s, 30s, or even later in life. And this is only after facing heartbreak, loss, or betrayal and emerging wiser. Also, having reclaimed our body, feminine intuition, and energy. After years of suppression, unlearning good girl conditioning like we are today, and healing shame, and of course, belonging in sacred sisterhood who support your mission, your soul's purpose on this earth. Also, subscribe to the newsletter to find out more about the Virtuous Women community coming soon. This is why it's so vital to actually become that woman and find your circle. The 10 daily habits to go from good girl to feminine woman are first to pause before you say yes. And I tell you this in almost every video. Why? Is because the good girl tends to say yes out of fear. She feels she has to. Whereas the feminine woman chooses from desire. She's a lot more picky. She gets to say no sometimes and yes sometimes. But how will you know unless your habit becomes breathing before responding? Ask yourself, is this a yes for my desire or is it a fear of disappointing someone? A mantra that you can repeat at night or when you wake up in the morning to remind yourself to pause before you answer is I honor my truth before I perform for approval. Number 2, and very important to be that feminine woman, is to practice saying no without guilt. Watch my latest video to hear about this in detail. This is important because the good girl fears being selfish. She fears that honoring her own time would mean that she would not care for others. Whereas the feminine woman sets clear and soft boundaries in a way that's welcoming and shows that she knows that when she is picky, she can give her best self to the person because she can be present and happy. So the habit you want to develop is to start small. Say no to the things that you absolutely resent in order to be properly motivated and feel like you're not losing out. Here's a tip for you to make boundaries and saying no even easier. Don't keep a to-do list on your phone, but actually put them in the calendar. If you have a physical calendar in your bedroom, you can see that this weekend you're going to be busy because you're painting for 3 hours or you're going grocery shopping. Now you know when it's Monday and you see someone on the street who asks you, do you want to hang out this weekend? But you really don't, to say, sorry, I'm busy. I'm doing things already. And you can be polite about it. You can even put take a bath in your schedule and then you can say, I'm choosing to rest this weekend. The third way to go from good girl to feminine woman is to reconnect with your body daily. I have a quote on my wall that says, do one thing for your mind, body, and soul every single day. The good girl lives in her head. We're constantly thinking about what it is that we could do or should have done differently, whereas the feminine woman is rooted in her body and intuition. So the habit you want to nurture are gentle embodiment practices. First, you can tune in and ask, what does my body need today? And then from there, go and pick from the menu the array of things that you could do in order to move your body. For me, sometimes that's walking the dog, or even going to a dance class or swimming in the sea. Just pick one thing that's going to remind you that you're having a human experience. You don't have to do it all perfectly. This could also look like just doing some gentle hip circles or putting on one song for 3 minutes and doing some intuitive dance. Even if you don't feel like doing a full workout, you can do some stretching on your floor. It does not have to look any kind of way. The point is that you disconnect from your mind and your anxious thoughts and you reconnect to your deep knowing. The fourth way for a good girl to become a feminine woman is to release the need to be liked. I know it sounds so much easier than it is. I myself wasn't even aware that I had this fear. I was afraid of being seen because I was afraid that I wouldn't belong or would be rejected. And the good girl survives by being likable. She needs to know that she belongs in order to survive. Her worth is way too attached to others' opinions of her. External validation is deeply enmeshed in her own view of herself, whereas the feminine woman is magnetic because she's real. Here's something that really changed my attitude around it. If you don't have enemies, you don't have real friends. If you aren't making moves in the world and stating your opinion with your friends in a way that might mean that they disagree with you, Are they even there because they love you for you, or are they just there because you're good company? I would rather state my opinion all the time and have no fake friends than be around 100 people who aren't real and stuck in a prison of my own making. So here's the habit that you can practice. Actually state an opinion that you have that might be slightly controversial online. Now, I like being online. Often, I actually connect with so many new faces and souls who see the world in a similar way to how I now do. So, although it may be messy or you think it may be unpopular, try to share how you actually feel about something that you haven't shared before. See how it's received. You can always delete it, but it's this practice, this muscle that you're pressing on and testing and actually making stronger as you go. So, the reframe is that being authentic serves the right people, being perfect serves no one. Because do we even create when we're trying to be perfect? Most often, we don't even hit publish. The fifth way to go from good girl to feminine woman is to nurture your inner girl. The good girl silences her inner child all the time. Like it's shameful or it's bad to want something, or you can't play, you can't express that way, you can't laugh too loud, you can't feel that pain. There are so many repressed emotions. However, the feminine woman parents her inner child with love. She says it's okay. So, the habit that you want to create daily is to have check ins. What do I need today? What does she need today? Give her softness or protection or freedom to just express whatever she's missing. This can look like, ooh, I want an ice cream and going and getting one for no reason. This can look like working out, but actually deciding to do it with really loud music and just enjoy yourself and move without much else of a structure. This can look like laughing to yourself about yourself if you trip up, because it's okay. This can look like screaming into a pillow because you're so mad about something. A big part of it being safe for your child to express is that your parent is there observing and holding the container, and you are both. The sixth way to go from good girl to feminine woman is to create beauty just for you. The reason why is because the good girl waits for someone to validate her beauty all the time, to compliment her, to tell her she's good at something. The feminine woman can't help but create beauty because she is beauty. She is harmony and order and all of those wonderful things. So the habit can look like so many different things, including dressing the way that you want to dress that makes you feel like your feminine self. And that's the most important. Adorn yourself with care, not performance. And then also your space. You want an environment that makes you feel homely. You can put soft lighting on. You can paint your wall any color you like. Create a place where you feel safe and then walk like the woman you've always wanted to be in the dresses you've always wanted to have, or the trousers, or the tops, whatever that looks like for you. The seventh way to go from good girl to feminine woman is to journal from your feminine voice. The good girl journals to self fix. I have this problem. I'm mad about this. I don't know about that. I'm afraid of what happened here. What if this might happen in the future? She's either stuck in the past or in the future. So it's important to recognize yes, venting has its place. And when we journal and set pen to paper, we're creating a sensory experience that actually speaks directly to the subconscious mind. This is why the feminine woman journals to self honor. She speaks to all that is good and all that is lovely, all that is virtuous, all that she wants to create, all that gives her joy. So, the habit for your journaling daily prompt is, what do I desire today? Where am I abandoning myself? What part of me wants to be seen and loved right now? The difference between the two voices is that the good girls might sound more pessimistic and stuck, whereas the feminine woman sees everything as it is, embraces it, and moves forward with a clear vision. The eighth way to go from good girl to feminine woman is to lead with emotion, not explanation. This is massive. When we say that the core of a good relationship is communication, this is what we're talking about. Because the good girl feels the need to over explain in order to justify her actions or her feelings. She needs someone to understand and fix and tell. But if you're speaking to a man, the only thing he acknowledges is, she's here right now. She loves me a lot. She's explaining a lot to me. That must mean that she wants to stay here, even though all you're saying is, I'm going to leave if. Whereas the feminine woman shares her emotions with grace and impact. She goes away to feel her feelings, figures out what she actually wants to say and how she wants to set a boundary and what she needs to move forward, and then comes back in a soft way to return to her man and say, one time, this is what I need. I'm not standing for that treatment. It's not happening again. And then she moves on to another topic because any other type of treatment is simply boring to her. It is just not the way she lives her life and not the way she's going to choose a partner. So, the habit to practice less explanation is to practice simple emotional truths. You can say, I feel hurt when I'm interrupted. Really come from that vulnerability because it brings down walls. And then for what you enjoy, you can say, I feel alive when I'm in nature. I love that movie. How about this new restaurant? When you share those needs from an emotional place, then a man can step in and provide for that need. But don't walk around considering that he has to read your mind because nobody can do that. The ninth way to go from good girl to feminine woman is to embrace slowness and receiving. The good girl overgives. This performance is based on the idea that at some point in the very near future, hopefully, she's going to get something in return. The feminine woman, though, is open to receive. She knows that everywhere she's going, even if she's the one giving, she's constantly getting back. Because when we give and when we're in service to others, we're actually getting tenfold in return simply from them also appreciating our effort. But of course, down to little habits and practices, you can let others open the door for you. But you need to pause, lean back, and allow that to happen. Ask for help, like we said in the last point. Rest without guilt. Make that time on your calendar. And then, when you do receive compliments, don't immediately send it back or say, oh, no, but rather, thank you. Can you feel that subtle energy difference? And the 10th habit to go from good girl to feminine woman is to surround yourself with feminine energy that actually really grounds you and makes you feel alive. The good girl stays in toxic dynamics to try to prove her worth, to try to change the other person, to try to explain. And it's very exhausting and draining. Whereas the feminine woman chooses nurturing environments because she knows what she can control. Hence that change in communication on point 8. When you know what you can control, you know that the essence of a woman is her energy. It is vital to curate your circle of friends, especially women. I, as a rule, don't have men in my community of friends. I don't really engage much with the masculine energy unless I'm dating or I have a mentor that is much older than me or my father. But otherwise, I don't engage or speak with men on a daily basis. I have a circle of feminine friends because they nurture me. They also understand me. We speak in different ways. But you want to choose these friendships incredibly well. You want to choose women who are self driven and radiant and inspired by their own lives. You want to choose women who are soft and strong in that softness and sovereign. Go to places that light you up. Don't try to lift places that are already quite low. Yes, you can do that, but it's much nicer to not have to set the standard alone. Listen, you can do all these 10 habits and it does not matter because it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Check out this video to see how to do things better because it really is about the energy that you do something with, the intention that you set up for it, rather than the action that you're doing alone. So, to summarize, a girl begins stepping into womanhood when she actually begins these three things. First, she needs to grieve childhood illusions of being saved, either by a parent or by a man, and begin to mother herself by holding her own pain and her own emotions. Second, she needs to release the need for external validation in order to feel worthy, by shifting into making choices from her inner authority and alignment, not people pleasing. And third, she has to understand her emotions and use them wisely. Then she can claim her power and voice, not to dominate, but to express truth, which, when done right, alleviates everyone involved. I want you to see how possible it is to prioritize devotion over discipline and pleasure over pressure. The key is that you need an inner strength in order to be externally soft, not otherwise. When our inner core is too soft, that's when our outer shell is very hard. But when you have the strength it takes to be soft, you integrate both the masculine and feminine polarities in you. You integrate your values, habits, schedules, and your passion all with delight. You can watch this video to learn more on how to do this, and a reminder to subscribe to the Substack if you want the notes from today's video. As my Oma always said, harden not your heart, love and serve each other.